All right, Lions fans, I'm coming back with another video. I want to talk on Jeffrey Okudah, the third overall pick. We'll come out the gate with it, and I'm going to harp on how or why he would be rather successful here. Oh wow! Uh, I think the timing of getting Okudah is like the right time to get a guy like him. Excuse me. The reason why I would say that he's going to be successful is because if you take what he did in college, right? Let's say for the time that he was with Ohio State, and of course you can take in consideration the defensive line and the regular the scheme and all that. You take all that in consideration. But his let's say his IQ, his you could say talent, you could say abilities, you could say so forth. All that is part of the package. But you can see how the maturity of him as a corner. And so like you take that what he did from Ohio State and you put that on the Lions defensive team. Now, mind you, you're not putting on a defensive team who had a broken Ziggy, excuse me, or maybe a bruised up or disgruntled Snacks Harrison, or you're not putting them on that type of team. You're not putting them on where the locker room is torn and split. You put them on a team that is pretty much is going to be established between Patricia as the foundation and underling as the structure. And so therefore you can actually place Okuda in his right spot based upon what he did in college. Take what he did in college. Now somebody said that some receivers got the best of them. Well, some receivers gonna get could be a testament how good the receiver is. Now, am I saying Okuda is the greatest ever? No, I'm saying that Okuda is the best that's coming out in the college ranks this year. And he actually, I'm gonna say he completes the defense this coming year. Not the previous defense. Not the year that they had where it was ranked maybe 28th or something like that. This defense is ranked zero. He is exactly what that defense needs. And I'm going to say it like this: you took what he did, take what his overall his overall game tape of what you saw what he did in Ohio State. That's for him being aggressive. That's for him being technically sound, or everything that his maturity, how he approached him being a leader, whatever. Take all that and you apply that to him as a rookie. And then somebody may say that what he did in Ohio State, he may not do with the Lions as a rookie. This is where I'm going to disagree. He's coming to a defensive unit that he doesn't have to be the best defensive player. See, that's why I think a fan may expect him to be the best defensive player on the defense because he was picked third overall. He is you put Jeff Okudah take for what he did in college, and let's say like you take his game tape on college and you put it on a pro level. Somebody say the game speed is different. He's gonna have to learn how to fly, how to adjust, and everything. But look what he got around him now. And I'm gonna give you maybe 3 to 4 names, possibly even 5. I'm gonna give you Trey Flowers. I'm gonna give you Jamie Collins. I'm gonna give you Deron Harmon. I'm gonna give you Tracy Walker, and I'm gonna give you Trufant. That's 5 right there, right? That's not including Danny Shelton or excuse me, Amari Warrior or Justin Coleman or Deshaun Hand or it's not including none of that. I'm just giving you those 4. I think it's that 5. That's 5 basically. Let's see. Let's try it again. Trey Flowers, uh, Jamie Collins, Deron Harmon, Trufant. Excuse me. And we can go with Tracy Walker, right? So that's your 5 core. notice I didn't say Okudah in that five. So Okudah, in my opinion, he's not coming in the gate being better than any one of those. But if he's the best corner coming out of college, not not in terms of being perfection or being a perfectionist, he's the best corner. He checks us all of the boxes as the best corner. He you know he excuse me, he may not have the 4-2 speed of a certain corner or whatever. He may not be Jalen Ramsey. He may not be those type of guys, but he is the best that came out of this year. And the boxes that he check off at being what I said, what he's being the best at, and the boxes that he check off with those is perfect for what the Lions need him to be. Take what he did for Ohio State. I don't recall how many years he was there, but take how many years he was there at Ohio State and apply that to, once again, Tracy Walker, Jamie Collins, Deron Harmon, Tracy Walker. Oh, I'm sorry. I think I said all wrong. Let me try it again. Trey Flowers, Jamie Collins, Deron Harmon, Tracy Walker, and Trufant. Apply what he did in college to that group. Remember, he's coming in and he's not better than none of them. He's not your best, not better in terms of better or whatever. I'm talking about in terms of he's not your polished defender like they are polished. They've been in the league, they were so forth, and they understand their technique. They understand how the league works in terms of off the field, on the field. They have this. Excuse me. They grasp the concept of who their opposition is and so forth, or even better yet, how to even oppose their will against the opposition. So he's not the best defender coming in. But he was the best, arguably one of the best defenders coming out of college. You take that and you put that on the team on the defense that he does not have to be the arguably the best defender. That's why I think a fan may say that that's why he need to be checking the number one receiver because he's coming out of college as the best, one of the best defenders and whatever. But he's coming to a defense. He's not coming to last year's defense when nothing was established. Everything was in a disarray. Everything was broken. He's coming to a defense with those five defensive players that's established. And look at those five defensive players. They're still proving themselves, even at the age that Jamie Collins is. They're still proving, even at the age of Trufant. They're coming to, watch how this culture develops. And I want to say the defense is going to evolve. Let's say the defense is going to evolve the offense. Just in practice alone, it's going to make this team far more efficient. So in those crucial moments, like we had against the Cardinals game, or the I think it was the Raiders, or the Chiefs and the Green Bay Packers, those type of games, they'll be able to close them out because they would have been able to you you would have been able to have the personnel to basically uh, train and prepare for it and in practice. Last year team, you don't have the players to actually that's fit for a championship run. And what I mean by players like that, they have, like I said, they have polished themselves to oppose their will against another. Those five players, of course, you could say Tracy Walker is grooming into that, but you could say Trey Flowers, Jamie Collins, Deron Harmon, of course, I'm missing. I'm drawing a blank. Anyway, the five that I said, I would include Tracy Walker in there too as well. You have those guys who have established themselves somewhat, with the exception of Tracy Walker. He is establishing himself, but he's making my point of why Okudah doesn't have to be like this game breaker coming in. All you just need Okudah to do is do what he did in Ohio State. To do exactly what he did in Ohio State. To do that here on that side of the ball, this defense is going to be lights out. Just based upon Trey Flowers, Jamie Collins, Deron Harmon, Tracy Walker, and Trufant. Just based upon that. That's not including Jelani Tavai. That's not including Deshaun Hand. That's not including, a core. That's not including like the other assets of Justin Coleman and so forth and Reggie Ragland. And it's not including that. And I'm going to tie in something about Reggie Ragland in a second too, like his role going to be on this team. And a lot of what Okudah is like the perfect piece for this team versus Darius Slay being on this team. And I'm going to make this as a contrast. I guess I'm going to make the comparison sort of type deal. It where Darius Slay as a vet was like a rookie coming to this team. Darius Slay as a vet is like a rookie going to a veteran team because he's not polished. What I mean by that, he has to learn how to be successful, not being the best Darius Slay, but being on at a successful organization that has actually a ceiling that is above mediocrity, where you can do whatever you want, say what you want, play how you feel, whatever you doing it your way. I don't think he ever been up under an organization that was actually structured for maturity. Now I don't. It doesn't matter who the coach was that he was here. He developed into. He got. I mean, he earned the stripes of being able to do it his way because he was arguably like the best defender on the team in most years. Right? Okay. Of course, when you got the exception when you have Sue or when you have DeAndre Levy or you had Glover Quinn and Ziggy Ansah and so forth, he's not the best defender. But arguably over the years, when they all left or one by one, they left. He became arguably the best defender. But if he's your best defender, your team stinks. Your defensive team stinks. If Darius Slay is your best defender, he is. I mean, your defensive team is really going to suffer, and it showed that last year. If he's your best defensive guy, that means your other talent. You have so many other holes on your team. That's why they couldn't close out the game. Darius Slay is like. I mean, the reason why I would say that about him is because he's about himself. He's good at being himself, but I don't think he's good in a team like being held accountable. If he had, well, maybe with the exception, if he had the Glover Quins, if he had the Sues and the those players that DeAndre Levy that have success, maybe he will follow in line. But for a team that didn't have none of that structure, he wouldn't, he just doesn't fit. So Darius Slay is great to go to a team that's established, and if he buys in, he can do his job plus. But I don't think he was going to be able to do that here because there's a new shift in the command. You have Trey Flowers, you have Jamie Collins, you have Deron Harmon, you have Trufant. Darius Slay is not better than those players. He is not better. I mean, his game tape, not so much on the field, but just off the field, on the field. His maturity, his like everything that he will bring is not superior to those five. I mean, to those players that I just named, right? So what I'm saying by that is he may have the accolades of going to the Pro Bowls and so forth, and all that good stuff. But that could be based upon fan favorite or by default because it's not a lot of talent at his position, and particularly maybe in the NFC. So, but I say all that to say, with Jeff Okudah, he is the right play. He has right. He is the right piece at the right time. Could we have got Isaiah Simmons? And I'm gonna give a shout out to the DSA, particularly my man Luke G. He, from the very start, he brought to my attention Isaiah Simmons, and I bought in, and I bought like particularly his versatility, and I immediately saw Isaiah Simmons, and especially after they drafted, I mean not drafted, after they signed Jamie Collins, I saw them like this, like a dynamic, like bouncing off each other type deal. I just saw that, and they could do so much scheming with those based upon their versatility, right? You could put Jamie Collins just about any place in it on that in the linebacker core. You can move him around, and Isaiah, you can move him around. You can shift him in the back. It was so many things I saw, but at the same time, Isaiah Simmons is not what this team actually needs. That is an asset for after this year. Now, if Isaiah Simmons was on the board coming this upcoming draft with the team that's assembled now, he will be perfect for it to do all that type of versatile schematics. They're still developing like who they are, and like to get a guy who really don't have a solidified position. It's kind of to establish. It's kind of hard to. I can't say it's hard to establish, but it will bring forth a little bit more time to try to articulate it or try to bring it into a schematic type deal. When you're on a timestamp, I mean, what I would say, you have a time window of immediate success, so you don't have time to like basically like to adjust him or adapt him into something that's not having been formed. Like next year, like say for example, I use that to say like if the Lions is doing good and they are doing well in the season and they're going towards a Super Bowl run. Definitely for they looking like a playoff team and not just record wise, but their dominance, their positioning on the field, how they are actually showing that they are legit, right? You can go for a home run type of trade at a deadline move. For I didn't go say a player that's disgruntled. You probably want to avoid a player that want to get paid. But then again, at that time, if they're looking good, it's almost like I compare it to the Pistons when they were actually winning when they got Rasheed Wallace. You can get another player to come in and come buy it for cheap because in fact they're winning and you can get paid a little bit. So if they're in that position, they're winning and they're looking good at it. And the player like the guy from I can't think of his name, the guy from the Jacksonville Jaguars. Of course, they will be acting for a lot to get him, but in that sense, he is the icing on the cake. My guy has always been Von Miller, and of course, he has a cap hit. That's whatever. Now, if you could arrange a deal where that Broncos would take a couple of it depends if they want to cut ties with him or not. If they want to cut ties with him, they can arrange a deal, whatever. With the swapping of the picks, they take a chunk of the money or paying for the cap cost, cap casualty type deal, the cap hit. Maybe we can work out something. But Von Miller's my guy that would take a veteran team that is like not a veteran team, but a contender over the top. Von Miller, if the Lions are in contention literally for a legitimate, not a playoff run, but a Super Bowl run, what Von Miller would do to the Lions is what DeMarcus Ware did to the Broncos with Von Miller and how they won that Super Bowl. That veteran leadership, whatever, to bounce off what you have. You don't have to teach him how to be Von Miller. Or so like if your linebacker core is Reggie Ragland, Jelani Tavai, and Jamie Collins, you don't have to bring Von Miller in to do something that he doesn't have to do. He will know how to play off of that based upon his I guess his the years that him learning how to be in a league. He been playing for like what about longest Stafford, maybe close to it. So he has his time in. You don't have to teach him anything, and that brings me back. Uh, Let me address the Reggie Ragland real quick, and then I go back to Jeffrey Okudah. Reggie Ragland fits this defense, and I went on the record by saying that Reggie Ragland is Jared Davis' replacement. And I'm not an X and the O's guy, so a person can call me out and say like I don't know what I'm talking about. I get that, but I'm just going by just based upon what the player brings in terms of just like their their IQ, etc. I guess I can include talent and all that, but basically how they just their mind is just on the field, the IQ, how they know how to position themselves, how they know how to get leverage, how they know how to techniques and everything else. So Reggie Ragland was considered the hard hitter coming out of Alabama, I believe, and he's like an enforcer. So if you have Trey Flowers, Jamie Collins, Deron Harmon, Trufant, and I'm going to say Tracy Walker, right? So that's your five on your that you're counting on. But if I take out Tracy Walker, I'm going to put Jelani Tobias. So that is your five, right? Now tell me who is your intimidator on that. Deron Harmon is your closer. Jamie Collins is a gamer. Trey Flowers is your leader. Trufant is like your over the top guy. He is the guy that brings to the locker room that he's gonna. I don't want to say it's like slayish, but it's like mature slayish. He has that savvy. I don't want to call it arrogant, but he has a confidence that I've done it, been it, whatever, but I've got tape to prove it. But where's your hard hitter? Where's your intimidator? Not hard hitter, but where's your intimidator? See, what Jared Davis is as versatile as he can be. Now he can be an asset to this team. Don't get me wrong, because I think they're going to use several different packages at several different times. But you may have a dime, you may have two linebackers, one linebacker, you may have three, four. You could do so many different things with the versatility, right? Based upon the personnel that they have. That's why I said Jeff Okudah is like perfect for where they are. When they drafted him, he's perfect for this year's team. Of course, barring injuries and all that good stuff. So with Jared Davis, like with Reggie Ragland, he's like your enforcer. Here's your intimidator. He can actually be the guy on this team that he was in Alabama or coming out of Alabama. He can actually be that guy. So I go back to Okudah for a second. Okudah's perfect at that slot over there. Let's say if you do have him on number one, on the number one receiver, he won't mess up much. And even as a rookie and coming to a veteran league, whatever, that he may be going against talent that may have mastered their craft, he won't struggle. And I won't consider him getting beat on a play, or slipping or whatever, missing time in a route or whatever, and he's going to learn on the fly. But I think he's a quick study. He just that advanced as a young guy, as a rookie. He's just that advanced. He can adapt really quick. And with the environment that Patricia Underling is going to set, based off of what Trey Flowers did last year, I say it again. Trey Flowers is the leader, but he was arguably your best defensive player last year. If, like I said, if Darius Slay was your considered your best defensive player, based upon what he have done up to that point last year, your team sucks. Why? Because he's not much of a mature leader. He's not much of a leader per se. I can't hold him accountable to, like, when I look at leadership, I look at you go as far as they go. But if this guy don't want to carry anybody, like he's saying, like, well, get on my back and I'm taking this to where we got to go. That's a leader. That's why I consider Trey Flowers the leader of this team. When, like, how he handled the Green Bay situation, I go back to that countlessly, and he handled it great. Stafford is becoming that. This is what where Stafford is now is what I've always wanted him to be from day one. But he had to groom to that place. That's why I think he's great for what Patricia needs and what Stafford needs. I mean, what Patricia needs is Stafford. How can I say it? What Stafford needs is he gets it out of Patricia, and what Patricia needs, he gets it out of Stafford. They are a Bill Belichick, Tom Brady type situation, just reverse in terms of time and of being in the league. But okay, I sidetracked for that for a second. But I'm going to say that if you put Okudah on one side, and let's say my defense base is this, I'm gonna give you this the five players. Okay, I got Trey Flowers once again. I got Jamie Collins, and I got Deron Harmon. I got Trufant, and I have Tracy Walker. Why wouldn't Okudah succeed? Tell me, why wouldn't he succeed? If that is on my defense, why wouldn't he succeed? The only way that Okudah would succeed if he doesn't be who he was. What he was IQ. He was a technician. He studied, not just studied tape. He understands like positioning and so forth. He understands his opponent. He understands himself. He knows how to place himself in positions to certain things. Is he the best? No, I'm not saying that, but he understands he understands himself. Something that a lot of players has to be developed into to understand what they can actually bring. So like if you're, it's one thing to be hyped up and everybody hyping you up that you are the best corner and everything else. And that's one thing. And then you basically feed off that hype. But you really don't understand where that hype is coming from because you just been focused on what everybody been telling you. But he is a guy who actually, not arrogantly, he actually sees what he can do, what he can. That's why he's able to adapt so quickly, and that's why you get guys like True Font said like he's like a veteran guy. He's like Kobe Bryant, like he's ahead of his curve, ahead of his time. Let me say it that way, not ahead of his curve, ahead of his time, where he can actually. Kobe Bryant was great in that regard. That as young as he was, he can absorb a lot of information, and he could put it in and apply it. Even if he messed up the previous play, like let's say for example with Kobe, when he was playing against the Utah Jazz for 2 straight years in the playoffs, and he chucked up the first shot, airballed, and everything else. The second year they lost again. He learned how to apply it. Learned from Michael Jordan, and he actually on the court through an All-Star game or whatever. He's talking to Michael, and of course he's not afraid of Michael, where he's looking at him as like I'm trying to be in awe of what you have accomplished, but he is actually saying, "I'm about to take what you're doing, what you're showing me right now in this game, and I'm going to apply it." He's that adaptable, and that's why I think the same goes for Jeff Okudah. He is that adaptable. He is like he has matured past his years, and that's why you develop that. I mean, that's why you draft him over Isaiah Simmons. Isaiah Simmons don't. I don't think he knows what he could. You ever hear the term potential? That's where the person can evolve to become, right? In other words, at the beginning of that, they show flashes that potentially they can be. That means in the future tense, they will arrive to that point. That's what Isaiah Simmons is. Potentially, he can be this. I would say that if they drafted Isaiah Simmons this coming year, he would be like a Lawrence Taylor on this defense. Not this year's team. I mean, if they draft him at third overall, then I don't think he would have blossomed in our defense yet. Because I think he has to learn himself inside of a culture that is evolving. I mean, that is trying to establish itself. Okuda knows himself. All he has to do is just absorb information. He's like a computer. Like he just absorb it and it just instantly uh, uh, processes it, and next you know is out there being demonstrated. He's that quick study. He's not a. This team is great. I mean, out of all the years of watching the Lions, I have never been more excited. Now, a lot of the times that I watched them, it would have been I've been watching it as a fan, and I'm not much of a fan this year, as much as I am just seeing the evolution of the Quinn Patricia regime. I'm ecstatic about that, just like I was ecstatic about when the going to work Piston crew was developed. When they started off with players like John Wallace and or to Chucky Atkins and the Bob Soras and Zeliko Rabatra and those players when they was developing off of that Corliss Williamson being your six man and they was developing or even before that, a year before that when you got Stackhouse and Ben Wallace and you got Eric Montrose and stuff like that. So and Chucky Atkins coming off the bench and I enjoyed I became a Piston fan when Grant Hill left. And I saw Joe Dumars build this team. That's the same thing I'm seeing. I became focused on the Lions after Calvin Johnson left. I wasn't really a Lions, follower up on when they had Calvin Johnson and all that good stuff. I don't care for that. I really didn't care for them too much when they had Barry Sanders either. I'm a Billy Sims guy. Barry Sanders is great, but I wasn't really following them like that. I know a lot of the history, but I wasn't really following them. But anyway, what they are developing here on the offense and defensive side of the ball, if this is what I'm banking on, that you don't have to tell a lot of players how to position themselves. They coming in ready, and they could just take what is on the board and just apply it to the field. You couldn't say that about last year's team or the year before last. You was actually teaching them. This is why I think Paul Pasqualoni was here for, was to position to show the players how to position themselves to be in position to make a play. I don't think he was called here to be such as like a defensive coordinator. I think he was there to implement that type of input to a player. But I believe what he was going up against was players that was like a brick wall that you're not going to be able to get inside of them. They was arrogant and they knew it all, and you wasn't going to be able to position them. They were like, "What do you know about? What are you talking about, old man?" I listen to how the fans talk about Paul Pasqualoni, but I don't think the fans understand why he was brought here. They think he was brought here because of his friendship with Patricia and so forth, and you can take that into account. I believe he was here to show the players how to position themselves to be in position to make a play. The same thing he was showing Matt Patricia how to position himself to go from being a defensive coordinator to a head coach, or how to overall be a coordinator for the whole team. I think I think Paul Pasqualoni is like his maturity, like inside of him, of how he's able to, what he has seen, he can show people how to best position himself. But I think with certain players, they already thought they mastered their craft because they have talent. Talent is good, but it's not greatness. What made, like, the guy who I followed a lot in the NFL was like Jerry Rice. What made Jerry Rice good is not because he had speed, because he didn't. He was rather slow, but you wasn't going to catch him anyway. But he knew how to position himself to make a defender work off what he's giving the defender, and then he countered that. It's like Akeem Olajuwon. Akeem Olajuwon had a move just so you can bite on it, just so he can alter that move. And if you was able to not bite off the first move, but you jumped at the second move, he had another move off those first two